Welcome to the Joy Work Show, the podcast that goes beyond the surface of business, right to the heart, to explore the real joy and the stories behind success, not just the moments of celebration, but the challenges that pave the way for them. Hiya, I'm Diane, and on this podcast we know that joy isn't just about the good times. Often the greatest joy comes right after the greatest challenge. And today, it's a wee bit different because it's a little bit special, a little bit different, and I just thought I would press record and see how it goes. As I'm recording this, it is just under a week before it will come out, and this weekend, my wee girl turns 4. So I thought I'd step away from business strategy just a little, not completely, to talk about something a little bit more personal. I have got personal a few times now, and no doubt I will continue to do so because those are the stories that I enjoy too. And this podcast is about stories. It's been 4 years since I became a mum. As I'm recording this, I think 4 years ago, I was about 24 hours out of going into labour. And in that time, in those 4 years, I've had 2 babies. I've launched a business. Ash, my partner, has completely changed the trajectory of his career, and we've navigated everything in between. It has been a pretty wild ride. Motherhood and entrepreneurship are both pretty wild, full of highs, lows, and lots of learning. So today I want to talk a little bit about my journey, how I went from soaking up those newborn days with my first to making the huge decision to leave my career and start my own business after my second. I'll talk a little bit about my struggles, I'll talk about my wins, and I'll talk about the lessons. And of course, I will be throwing some strategies in there for those of you who are balancing business and life as a parent, or indeed balancing business and life, because let's face it, both are pretty hard. So let's go. So when I look back to the early days of being a mum, I had a pretty rough labour, but as soon as I got home with that wee girl, it was truly magical. I'd waited so long to become a mum that I was determined to soak up every single moment. And it is through conversations that I've had with other mums since becoming a mum that I didn't realise that me and my sisters having our children, we'd been given such a gift that I could soak up every single moment and I could have those wonderful newborn days because I had an incredible support system. Ash and my mum took care of everything else so that all I had to do was take care of my baby. So I got to enjoy the cuddles, the feeding, the naps, the playing, the walks, all because there was somebody else worrying about the washing, the dinners, and everything else that needed to be done for a certain period at the start of my first maternity leave. So because of that time felt slow and sacred, and I will forever be grateful for that first maternity leave that I had. And then people ask if it was during that first maternity leave where I thought about starting my business. But there's always been a little voice at the back of my mind that wanted something more, that wanted to have something that was mine. I knew there was other things I wanted to try. I didn't always know that I'd start a business, but I did know that I wanted to create. So I did write, I had blogs, I published the likes of Huffington Post. At one point I sold cakes. That's just a couple of things that I've tried over the years, but I always did it alongside my career and nothing ever stuck because my first true love was my career and it took all of my time and focus. And I would say for 70 to 80% of that time, my career made me as happy as anything did. But the decision to start my business came after I had my second baby. So my second baby came 19 months after my first. As somebody who didn't think they could have children, It was a great surprise to have two within 18 months, and something I will again be forever grateful for. But that maternity leave was very, very different. I had another extremely complicated labour, but actually I was poorly on and off, in and out of hospital for the first 3 months of my second baby's life. And I don't know if that sent me into a different trajectory than what it would have done had that not been such a difficult time. But again, I had that support system that, thank goodness I had it, because I don't know how we would have got through it without it. So, but that maternity leave was very, very different. It got to, so my second baby was born in September, and it got to about the Christmas time when we started having conversations. And I don't know if it's because we'd seen how difficult it was when I got ill. We had another child to look after. Ash had a full-time, extremely time poor job, and a high pressured job. So I don't know if it was juggling all of that that made us realize quickly that with having two children, a dog, incredibly stressful careers, that we realised that life just couldn't go back to what it was. I'd already gone back part-time in the 6 months that I went back between the maternity leaves. Yes, I did go back pregnant, but didn't realise it at the time. Sorry, employers. But yes, so we realised it just couldn't go back to what it was, but we didn't know how it could look. I'd already gone part-time. We were already finding it incredibly difficult, logistics-wise, even with just the one. So we just couldn't see between two childcare fees, the logistics of drop-offs and pickups, the reality of one of us needing to be the primary carer. It really forced us to take a hard look at our lives, but not in a kind of dour, negative way to look at it. We actually spent the time of thinking what we wanted, our big dreams, what did we still want from our lives now that we have these children? What do we want life to look like? What do we want life to look like to them? What do we want holidays to look like? Are we going to stay in this house? Is this the house? Is this our forever home? Are we still looking for a forever home? I have always known I wanted more dogs, so when would that come? Discussed so much, and we discussed our ambitions for ourselves. And I think it's really important to have those conversations, and there isn't enough of those conversations going on within households. And there's lots of conversations at the moment about it all, the mother load and it all falling down to the mother. The only way that's ever going to change is in the individual houses and having these conversations. And Ash was completely prepared to walk away from his career and let me carry on with mine. I wanted to be the one that was the primary carer, and that's a decision that we made as a team. So the summer was filled with long conversations, honest feelings, and a lot of fear, because as the end of my maternity leave was coming up, I took a year with both children. It was just that realization of we need to make a decision. I'd started having conversations with my employer about what it would look like for me to go back. And you have all of those things. You have those things about each other. We then I was thinking, what would people think? What would my family think if I didn't go back? What would people think about me starting a business? And all of that doubt comes up. Who do I think I am? How dare I think I can launch a business? But then you think, well, why can't I? Why can't I go and try these things? Why can't I be the one to do? And ultimately, it was when it became scarier to go back than it did to leave that I had to make the decision to go. It felt very now or never. I felt that if I went back, I'd get back on that hamster wheel. We would get used to having that money coming in. We would have them in childcare. And I would so then when is the point that you would leave in the future? When would that crossroads come back up where you would make that decision? So I made the jump. I figured if we'd survived 2 maternity leaves, we could survive me building a business. Slightly naive, has been a lot harder than maybe I gave it credit for, but we are here to tell the tale, and there has been lots that we have gained out of the experience and the lessons and the journey that we are still on. Balancing motherhood and business has been incredibly hard, but I actually think it would have been a lot harder had I gone back to an employed role. And I have no doubt that it will continue to be hard. And we are at the point that we're beginning to see light at the end of the tunnel a little bit. We're very much still in the trenches as I speak to you now. As I said, my eldest will be 4 at the weekend and my youngest is 2.5. So we're coming out of the trenches slightly, but we're very much still there. But I know I have lots of friends who have children of different ages. I have sisters who have teenagers and 20-odd-year-olds, and I've seen what they've gone through. So I know that there'll be so many different stages to this, but ultimately I have the choice that I get to choose when to be there with my children. And that is what I wanted. I have a little bit of issue with the words freedom businesses and laptop lifestyle type things because I don't believe any of those truly exist. But I do believe that if you can get your business to a point of success, what success looks like to you, then you can have the freedom of choice. And that's a pretty amazing thing to get. So it has been incredibly hard. It continues to be incredibly hard. And I don't think there's a week that goes by where I don't have that niggling doubt that I'm not quite getting it right in all areas. And over time, what I've learned and what I do now and what I bring myself back to is I've learned to lean hard into strategy, believe it or not, which at its core, strategy is ultimately prioritization. It's ultimately deciding what is the most important thing to do. So now I only deal with the most important things first. Unfortunately, they're never the easiest. They're often the scariest, but they have got me to this point. So that is what I'm going to continue to do. And my mindset now, my mindset is always stay in the present. I always bring myself back to now. In fact, I wrote in my newsletter a few weeks ago about a book that I'm writing at the moment, and one of the characters said, "What is wrong with now?" And that has stuck with me since I read it. And literally, whenever I feel myself going a little bit flaky and spiraling out, I just remind myself of what is wrong with now. And when you look at now is pretty good. So I just bring myself back to the present. And also bringing myself back to the present, I deal with whatever is in front of me. And whether it's my child or a client, that is what gets dealt with. Prioritize, stay present, and deal with what is in front of you. That is what gets my full focus. I don't multitask. I don't try and do multiple things at any one time. When I try to do that, I fail. If I tried to do this podcast while looking down at my phone whilst doing something else, I would get totally distracted and none of them would get done well. So I make sure that I am present at any one time. That doesn't mean I don't check an email or send an email when my children are having lunch on a day where I have them at home. But it means that they have their lunch first. They're sitting having their lunch happily whilst I send that one email. But if I try and send that email whilst they're looking for my attention, that's not going to end well for anybody involved in that at all. So that is what I mean by not multitasking. The hardest moments have came, or the hardest moments have been lots of different things, and becoming a mum changes you, and being in a relationship, and then your partner supporting you through building a business, you supporting your partner through making a big career change, which means that I solo parent a lot and things like that. But ultimately, it was the best decision we've made for our family ever. There's just been lots of ups and downs. But the hard times are so much harder when I forget to prioritize me. So when I talk about the prioritization and the strategy is just prioritization, I forget that I am quite a crucial part in the strategy of my family, my business, and our life. And I started my business because I have ambitions. I started my business because of those ambitions and because I am ambitious. Becoming a mother did not make me any less ambitious. I want to make a difference. I want to build a life for my family. I want to have a legacy, and I want to be there for my children. And I believe I can do all of those things. I just can't do them all at the one time. But I also want to show my girls that I take care of them by taking care of me. I invest in them by investing in me. I look after them better when I am looking after me. And I want them to grow up seeing females within their life, ultimately their mama, as they get called this precise moment in time, looking after ourselves, looking after what is important, seeing that at times I put myself first, because so often when you're in the trenches and so often as females, we put ourselves last to the point that we don't even go for a wee when we need a wee. I mean, how low down the list do we need to be that when we're desperate for a wee, we'll do 5 jobs or do something with the kids before we even go for that wee? I mean, what is that in us that makes us do that? But I want them to grow up knowing that to build their own lives, they need to put themselves first so that they can step out into the world as their best selves. That when they put themselves first, they're looking after everybody else by looking after them. No, it's not selfish. It's not, I don't know any other word. Again, it's not selfish. It is by taking care of ourselves, we are so much better at taking care of others. And the hardest moments are when I forget that, because even moments that are just a wee bit hard are so much harder because I am depleted and exhausted and I haven't looked after myself and I don't feel I have any time. It doesn't mean we always get the balance right. Life is busy. Life is hard. But if I don't even put me as part of this strategy, then there is no chance that I'm going to be. Whereas at least if I'm there, at least if I'm included, then most of the time I will get looked after, and most of the time I will be looking after myself. And it goes to that thing that you can't pour from an empty cup. Not the first time you have heard that, not going to be the last time that you're going to hear that either. But when I forget that, the hard times are so much harder. And when I was thinking about this podcast, I was thinking I'll have to include my biggest win. And my biggest win is that I can do hard things. I can launch a podcast. But ultimately, my biggest win has been my wee team, my family, my girls, Ash, my dog, Duke, and me. We do this together. The good, the bad, the ugly, and the indifferent. Even the days where it seemed that we might not be as together as we could be, even the days when it seems incredibly difficult, the weeks where it is never ending and you're not sure if you're kind of going to get out of it, and then you do, and then you look back and you go, but look at what we're creating, look at what we're building, and this hard, it might just be worth it. And this isn't just my journey. Launching it is my business. It's me working in it. It isn't just my journey. It's also Ash's, and it's also my girls, because they are at the core of it. Ash and I worked together right up until the moment I started this business. We always worked within the same industry and the same businesses together. He's now in the same industry but a different business. And he's doing his thing and I'm doing this thing, but we still make those decisions together. We still brainstorm together. We still talk about business, and I talk about this business, he talks about his, and we help each other and guide each other. So it isn't just my journey, it's ours. And that's the thing that I'm most proud of, and that is the thing that I hope will continue. If I could go back and talk to myself 4 years ago when I was about to go into labour, and I had no idea that just 4 years later I would be sitting talking into a microphone on a podcast about this, I'd say this: stay present, stop worrying. You are good enough. You are enough. It doesn't matter what other thinks, just that one little person that's on their way. And by the way, there's going to be another little person along pretty soon, and a business and a whole new life. So get ready. All I want is to keep building a life for my family whilst living the life that we have right now. I want the highs, I want the lows, I want the lessons, and I want everything in between, because I know that I can't have one without the other. And that's the biggest lesson I want to share with you today. So if you're balancing parenting and business, here is a few things just to think about that I have mentioned all the way through today's podcast episode. And the fact that I've not actually cried yet, you've probably seen or heard that I've been pretty close, but the fact that I haven't cried yet is quite remarkable. But one, prioritise, prioritise, prioritise every single day. Focus on the most important things, not just the most urgent. Be proactive and not reactive. I use that in my business and in my life. Do I make myself sound like a little bit of a control freak? I don't mean to, but yeah, make sure that you're focusing on the most important things every single day. 2, lean on your support system. If you have people who want to help, let them. If you don't have people who want to help or can help, find ways. Reach out to community. Reach out to people who can support you. If it's a mum-parent thing, reach out to the baby classes. Reach out to the other mums. You will find your people who want to help you when they can, even if it's somebody at the end of a phone. Find a support system and a community that can help. It's also true with business. Lean on a support system. Don't do business alone. Don't try and be a lone wolf like I did. Number 3, be fully present. When you're with your babies, be with them. When you're working, work. It's not about time. It's not about who gets the most time. It's not that if you spend more time on your work today and less time with your babies, that your babies are less important. It is so not about that. It is about focus. It is about what you give to each of them when you can, and making sure that you are part of that being fully present. Number 4, take care of yourself. If you don't, no one else can do it for you. In my membership, one of the things we talk about and I teach about being a CEO is you have to look after yourself. You have to look after your own mindset, your health, your sleep, your personal development, because you cannot show up for your business, never mind your family, if you're running on empty. So take care of you. And lastly, remember your why. And my children are my why. Like literally, if I'm having a bad day, I just need to look at their picture and think, right, come on, pick yourself up. This is why you are doing it. But I am also my why. I also have a deep why within my business of the impact that I want to have, because I need to know why I'm turning up for this business in particular. My children are why I get up in the morning to keep going, but I need to know why I'm doing this business. Why am I doing this podcast? Why am I building the Joy Work Club? I need to know those whys. And when I have them, it's to help. The hard moments will come, but those whys will always pull me through. My kiddos are going to pull me through everything. But to keep my business, to keep the core of my business, to keep growing that, what is my why for that? Make sure you know your huge big why, but also why you're doing what you are doing today. Thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope you got a lot out of little personal stories that I've told today. I could go on and tell you how wonderful my soon-to-be 4-year-old is and how delighted her 2-year-old sister is going to be when it's her birthday at the weekend, because she totally dotes on her. I could go and tell you so much more about all of the topics that I've said today, but I always said my solo episodes had to be under half an hour. In fact, this one's going on a little bit longer. It's not going longer than half an hour, but it's longer than I said my solo episodes were going to be. But whether you're a parent, a business owner, or both, I see you, I get you, and you are not alone in this journey. Reach out to me or somebody if something has come up for you today that you know you need help with. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love for you to share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, make sure to follow, like, and leave a review for the Joy Work Show. It helps more business owners find these conversations and join this amazing community that we are building. Until next time, which will be with one of our wonderful guests, take care, be present, and keep building the life you want whilst living the one you have right now. And always, always find the joy. See you soon.